Hello everybody, how's it going? We are here with a timeless reading. Before we get started with the reading, let's set the intention for this to be a space where everyone allows themselves to feel seen and validated, and ultimately for this to be a safe space and a healing space in alignment with the highest good. Okay, so what I'm seeing is that there's something that's been going on mentally for you. I was hearing the word tormenting. I'm seeing this be related to something cyclically that's been going on within your head, that you're at this point now where you're like, why am I continuing to do this? Like, why am I continuing to put myself through this? Like, mentally, spiritually, this whole thing. But what I'm seeing is that it's not going to end unless you be the one to do this. And so your action and your initiative is required with this, but I'm seeing that it's something that it looks like it may begin with suffering mentally, but I feel like at this point it's begun affecting you in many other ways, but you can all trace it back to something mentally, okay? Think about like mental symptoms like anxiety, panic attacks, depression, feeling like you can't get yourself to like move out of your perspective, just all of these things that sort of derive from the mental landscape is what I'm hearing. This would be your air energy. The thing is too that when you become ungrounded, when it's like through a mental system, okay, it means that all of the energy from your other chakras like move around here, like in the throat chakra area, and so it becomes out of balance because you're not like feeling, you're not in your root, so you're like maybe feeling out of your body, things like that, out of touch with your solar plexus energy, which can lead you to feeling stuck, like I can't get out of this situation, like what power do I even have, stuff like that. So this is about bringing you back into the rest of your energy systems as well. Those of you with strong air in your chart or like strong placements or like a prevalence of air can definitely feel this for sure. This can also just be like the implications of Mercury right now as well. Yeah, here it is. See this thing? The deal with this is this card is the Ten of Swords here. This is something that's like had you feeling so pressed upon. You see how this person is like all the way down there, and this is all of the air energy that's like weighing you down. I'm seeing you like I'm hearing mental collapse. Maybe like physically you're really feeling the weight of this. I will say this too, with mental energy, that doesn't mean that 24/7 you're feeling like this. It can be, but for some of you, you may be going about your day feeling fine, and then this comes and it hits you, and you feel like you can't move. It's like a truck hitting you, with all of that energy. And that's just as potent and powerful and relevant as you feeling this all the time. So I think that some of us too, when we're in an experience where it's like, well, sometimes I'm fine, so maybe it's not that much of a problem because it only hits me sometimes. It's still a problem, okay? Something to be resolved. The beautiful thing about the Ten of Swords means that this is the end of the cycle, though, and you don't have to suffer through this any longer. Expressing yourself is definitely going to be a key part of this verbally. I definitely get the sense that something needs to be said or expressed or communicated, whether this be you with you or you in a bigger sense, maybe with a person. Can be like an announcement that you're making, can be a big decision or just something that you're letting people know, but it always is coming back to a conversation that you have with yourself where you are retiring this paradigm where you've been going through this and allowing yourself to release it. And that's what's being reflected on. So it's something that just has felt like such a struggle to be moving through, that you're allowing yourself to, like, when it comes down to it, Nobody's keeping you in this spot except for you. This is always your choice. It's always your decision, which is amazing because that means you can also release yourself from it. So you don't have to be doing this anymore. Specifically with this card in this deck, this reminds me of an organ, the way that these pieces are set up. And so I feel definitely like something needs to be expressed, or at least that energy, the energy needs to be expressed in some way, shape, or form. You can create art, you can write about it, you can speak about it, anything where you're expressing this and like getting the message or the picture across. Like journaling, whatever it is that you like to do that helps you flow the energy out and keep it circulating, moving. There may be a lot of like sadness for some of you. I'm hearing remorse, regret that's connected with this too. You can be feeling that. That's not to say that's the be all end all or how you're finally going to feel at the end of this at all. But right now you could be looking at something and be like, wow, I was really putting myself through this. I was really struggling. But I'm getting it like you were in this spot where there was something that you were really suffering with mentally that had been very, very trying and very, very challenging and very, very difficult, where you even felt so weighed down that you like couldn't make a move. It just feels like the heaviest pressure mentally that had been put on you, to the point where you could have been like, if I try to get up from this, I just feel like it's going to make it worse. And so it was like, what else can I do besides stay right here, where it felt extremely uncomfortable. But it was kind of like, if you got up from this place, it would have meant facing sort of everything. But then I'm seeing there be this like rolling over that's happening. And I'm seeing you in a space where you've now, what's the word? You're now standing up straight. Before, prostrate with an R. Standing up straight. This is what I'm hearing. So before you were kind of like smushed down from the energy, and now I'm seeing you like standing up. And I'm seeing you looking back on this and being like, wow, like I was really struggling. I was really suffering. I felt like I couldn't move. And there's like even this understanding of why you had been going through that. So I'm seeing this like very compassionate element of you. And you may even look back at this now, just where you are in this snapshot of this moment that I'm seeing right here within the energy, like within the timeline. I'm seeing you look at yourself and be like, why was I doing that to myself? Why was I putting myself through that? And this can be that moment, because like mourning and grieving and releasing and accepting, there's like a process to it, right? There are steps to it for the most part, archetypally speaking. I'm seeing you look at this and be like, wow, I wasted so much time doing that. Even though like in the grand scheme of things, nothing was a waste of time. You needed to go through all of that to allow it to sink in, to go through the whole process. It all is with purpose. When you get to this spot, you could look at that and be like, I didn't have to do that for so long. Like, I can't believe I was just putting myself through that. So there's this moment where it's like, oh, it can be different than that. And I see that now because I'm making my way out of that. And I'm just seeing you be there's such a deep level of compassion and understanding now of where you were before and where you are now. And that being such a difference, even though you don't feel like you're all the way out of this yet. At this point here, where I'm seeing you. But there could have been a lot of mental stuff that was consuming you. Like, it reminds me of the phrase upon the notion that says something along the lines of, like, don't spend like longer making a mistake just because you spent time doing it. It's like not coming across in an eloquent way at all, but basically it means that sometimes we're on this path and realize that we're going in a direction that we don't want to go in, and we're like, but I came all this way, so I'm going to keep going this way, you know, even though we've come to this realization. And at that point it becomes a choice. Like, are you going to keep going that way and only do it for the arbitrary reason of I've been doing it even though it's not resonating with me anymore? Or are you going to take that and be like, wow, I have a choice now to go in a way that does resonate with me? But that could have really been what was stopping you before. And what I'm seeing is that this is the realization that you're making, is that you were like continuing to put yourself through something because you were like, but then I'm gonna have to face that maybe things didn't work out as I wanted them to. There's like all of this disappointment and stuff like that of it didn't go how I wanted it to go, and I was like avoiding going through this, and now I'm at this point where I have faced it. So this is a very, very beautiful part of your journey, but it's also very can be feeling a bit nostalgic, can also be feeling a bit bittersweet, poignant. Oh, you get out of that so quickly though. It just took you moving, again, I'm getting this like rolling over energy. It just took you looking at yourself from this like zoomed out perspective. So this also feels like an integrative process as well. It also seems like this very connected, like compassionate part of yourself looking back at what was going on before with you, and also your reasons for why you had been doing that, even though you were suffering through something. This is that moment where you're like, I see what my logic was. And this is a very important moment, because one thing I can say for sure here is that there is no bypassing. You like really went through something. Now you're really checking it out and being like, why did I need to go through that? Why was I putting myself through that? What was my logic? Like, what were my reasons for doing it? Because, you know, when somebody's in pain and suffering and stuff, keeping oneself in that position, one does that because they feel like the alternative is going to be worse, right? And so you're seeing like, what was that fear related thinking that was keeping me in that spot, that I was willing to continue enduring that because I thought that the alternative was going to be worse. But now that you're in the alternative, you're like, wow, I have such a different perspective now. I can understand my logic and why I've been doing that, and that also is not the only logic. It was just associated with my belief system and how I was being, I'm hearing compiled, how I was being so motivated by fear rather than empowering myself, rather than connecting with like my faith and my trust, like rather than surrendering, rather than doing what was resonating with me on an empowering level. But now that you have done that, again, it gives you that perspective. So there's something so deeply profound that's been learned here within this process. And I feel like this has left such an indelible mark on you that you're not going to put yourself through this again. And you don't need to. And when I say put yourself through it, we do it on a subconscious level. So it's not something where you're like, yeah, I'm going to put myself in this really horrible position today. It happens on such a subtle subconscious level that until you're out of it, like that's when you get the key. So it's ironic in that part, because when you're going through it, you don't really feel like you have the key until this moment where there's that switch, where there's that elevation to be able to see things zoomed out, backed up, overhead. And you're having that moment of clarity now, again, even though it's poignant, but it's so poignant and so valuable. And the whole point of this experience, because you've gained something that you would have never had this deep, profound understanding had you not lived in this experience. And within this moment, it's like these last glances of like this past version of yourself, like in that old paradigm. With that, I'm seeing you turn and continue moving forward. And I'm seeing you actually like moving very, very quickly. So I don't know how long you were in this state where something was like really keeping you confined, but I'm seeing that you get out of it, you kind of review what you needed to review. And then I'm seeing it's like at light speed, I'm seeing you take off and move forward. And that's also what's interesting here, is that if you would have come to this conclusion sooner, I don't think that you would, I think you would just still be exactly where you are because of the timing of things. So just know that there was no time wasted. Like, you are still right on time. Like, whether you mean to be or not, you're always going to be right on time. So if you're carrying any sentiment of like, I should have done that sooner, or like anything of that nature, release it and let it go, because you're right where you're supposed to be in perfect timing. This feels like a very monumental thing here that's been accomplished. Something about a different type of independence that's going to be gained. This is the direction that you're going in, or there could be... Yeah, you're literally... You go from the Ten of Swords, which is excruciating mentally, to the Ten of Cups, which is the happiest card. That's like being so extremely fulfilled. Let me just give a visual. Here, this is being completely like confined, restricted by all of the stuff mentally that's going on, feeling like you can't even bear it. Now, this is you looking back at yourself with that compassion and again that like poignancy. Both of these cards are kind of dark too as well. Now this, I'm seeing you go from looking at yourself to turning in this direction. This is the Eight of Wands. So you move very, very quickly. As soon as you're done kind of reviewing what you needed to review, I'm seeing you move very quickly. This also feels like it's in, this is aligned with the retrogrades too. It's feeling, because this feels very archetypally like coming out of retrograde and stationing direct now. And then where do you move very quickly to? The Ten of Cups. Look. The Ten of Cups, look at how bright that is. And look at like all of the steps that you had to go up to get to this place as well. But I'm seeing you like running up these steps. So maybe you were also before whatever situation this was that you were in, that... I'm getting so many different things about this situation. This situation that you were in, you could have known that you were not, like, truly in a deep way fulfilled. But because of fear and because of mental stuff, because of whatever your reasons were, you stayed in that. I will say this too. When we are in the Ten of Swords, logically, there is a reason why we're doing it. So it's not like you're like, I'm just going to make myself suffer. Again, it's because you think the alternative is going to be worse than the suffering that you're already going through. And that's why we stay in those situations. Like, what if I leave this person and then I never find somebody and connect with them and I'm like all alone and lonely forever? Maybe it's better to be with them. You know, stuff like that. So whatever your reason, or how am I going to take care of this, you know? Whatever your reasons were for staying in that, I'm seeing that, like, in this process, there is now this reaching and meeting of the Ten of Cups, which is like that fulfillment that you were looking for, that before the fear of not finding that was keeping you in that space. And because you were brave and allowed yourself to find your way through that, to work through the dense energy, and work with yourself through that and meet yourself and continue carrying on, you end up connecting with the Ten of Cups, which again is like this significant, like deeply felt joy and happiness and fulfillment. And this liberation, I'm getting just such a levity here with this Ten of Cups. It's like I'm seeing this person even floating. So it's the absolute, like, opposite polarity of what you had been feeling before. And this is also emotional liberation as well. So this has been, like, equally emotional and equally mental, it seems. It appears to be. I wonder if there's... Let's just get 4 more cards to get some details. Yeah, I'm seeing you be stepping out of... You have transcended this loop now. The 9 of coins. We're seeing the sun here. These are also very happy cards too. Like the 9 of Pentacles, I see this one specifically as like transcending something, but also just traditionally with the 9 of Pentacles, it speaks about abundance and allowing that in, which had maybe been something that you weren't open to before because of your belief systems that were keeping you in that spot. Because law of attraction, right? We're constantly... You don't have to do anything to attract the stuff that you want, except to get all of the stuff that's not resonating out of the way. That's all you need to do. But as far as pulling stuff in, you don't need to do anything to like make that magnetism work, because it's already working, it's already functioning. The only thing that blocks the law of attraction stuff from coming in are the belief systems and the limits that we place on ourselves and the things that we're keeping around us that are no longer resonating with our frequency. So when we don't expel those things, when we don't surrender those things, we're not making room for the other stuff to come in. So this is a moment of like you had finally gotten to the place where you're like, I am willing now to make room. In that moment, though, I will say this again and again and again. I'm definitely seeing this. You be like, why did I not do this? Like, what was I doing? Why did I spend so long? But I'm also seeing you answer yourself here as to, like, in reviewing your logic, seeing how being in that paradigm of fear and how real that was for you and how motivated you were by that, how that kept you in that cycle. Because when you get into that frame of mind, it's logical. But it's not the only like paradigm, it's not the only vibration that you can be like receiving thoughts through. It's like a lower vibrational thought because it's fear. So it's very, very low, it's very, very dense, and it's very, very hard to get out of as well. But when you get higher, it's kind of like things go from being very muddy and murky and like quicksand to then it being like sort of swimming through water to then like swimming through air as you get higher and higher through this. And so I'm seeing you just like letting all of these things in. I'm seeing there be this like sheltering from the sun, sheltering within the sun. When I say from the sun, I don't mean being sheltered from the sun where it's not hitting you. I mean like the sun actually providing shelter for you. The sun will represent your energy. That's like your life force. It's a revitalizing energy. It's your concentration. It's your focus as well. It's like your chi, you can call it. This is such a huge turnaround. And it's also such a huge completion as well for you. It's like it took going through all of this for you to recognize that a situation was really, it had completed for you. So as you see it now, you look at this and you're like, okay, I had been basically like overstaying my welcome within this cycle, and that's why it was becoming heavier and heavier and heavier, because that was my sign. Get out, get out, get out. Like, it's time for me to continue. It's time for me to move on. Because cycles aren't meant to be feeling like that, but they have a purpose for why and when they do. And it's to keep moving you along. But that could have been something that I'm getting there was like some sort of confusion that you were feeling, again, because of the density within this cycle of like, am I actually, like, is it okay for me to walk away? Has this actually expired? Like, am I really not meant to be here anymore? Or am I supposed to stay? I'm seeing that was like something that was confusing for you within the cycle. But what I'm seeing is that something really was like expired. It was like you weren't meant to be in it anymore. And that's why it felt like that, which that can be another sign for you. If you start feeling like this again in a cycle, that's a cue new for you now that you've experienced, that you'll know when a cycle is not meant for you any longer, like when it's expired. This is so beautiful. Yeah, I'm seeing you could not be more on track here. It really took you focusing inwardly on like true fulfillment internally, recognizing that this cycle has expired for me, like granting yourself permission to keep moving and be like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here anymore. Continue moving forward. And then I'm seeing the Empress and the Hierophant, and this feels like you're connected back with that like wisdom that maybe you had felt disconnected from because of all the ways that your mind was like blocking you from this, and the ego was blocking you from this. I will say this though, the ego is not bad. The ego has a function. Like the ego is neutral. It's not good, it's not bad, it just has a purpose of protecting us. And so I will say this again with that Ten of Swords. Don't look at this and be like, I was just keeping myself there for no reason and suffering through this. You were keeping yourself there because you feared the alternative. And that comes back to the belief system. So this is something that you're now liberating yourself from and now choosing to empower yourself. And in that, you have the Ten of Cups and the Empress and the Hierophant. So I'm seeing you feel like connected back with your relationship with spirit, with your empowerment, with your ability to create and to nurture and feel connected with your energy and to be receptive as well to the guidance that you're receiving and just the wisdom that's naturally occurring within you as you are spirit. But yeah, this was a very, very tricky puzzle karmically that I'm seeing you've worked through. But now you like couldn't be in better shape is what I'm seeing. So this is a really amazing like continuation through your process. So amazing job. I'm looking at the Sun and Venus and Taurus here too. Taurus can be themes that are associated with our values. Self-worth can also be connected with this. The Sun is like an awareness, and Venus can also have to do with your relationships as well. So this can be something that was going on within an interpersonal relationship of yours, or like any sort of relationship in general. All right, my friends, with that being said, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everybody for connecting. Thank you for tuning in. I'm wishing everybody love and light and healing, and I hope to catch you guys next time.